We got the final GolfWRX Members Choice list to break down today. We're looking at the top 5 wedges and top 5 putters of 2024. Plus, master fitter Kevin Kraft joins the show on this episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Hey golfers, welcome on into the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Filling in for Drew Mahold today. He'll have some exciting news to share with you when he returns next week. But we got a great show for you. We talk with GolfWRX's Brian Knudson as we're going to break down the top 5 wedges and top 5 putters of 2024 according to the GolfWRX members voting. Plus, Kevin Kraft will give his take on those lists and some clubs that he thought maybe should have been on there that didn't. So looking forward to that, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But first, we're going to go into a segment we like to call The Turn, where we break down all the latest golf news and headlines. And I think starting off the turn, you got to look at the Solheim Cup. Was probably the premier golf event over the weekend. The U.S. women won 15.5 to 12.5 over Team Europe. That was the U.S.'s first win since 2017. First of all, it was a great win for them. They held on Sunday in singles, but ultimately the big thing that stood out was the crowds there. Now, I know they struggled on the first day getting the crowds to the course. That shouldn't happen, but they ended up fixing that. But when you watch that tournament, there was... it was loud. There was tons of people there. The energy was there. It felt big time, and felt like a Ryder Cup does. And it's great to see the women getting that kind of support out there in Virginia this past weekend. Among the standouts, the U.S. had Rose Zhang was 4-0. 8th player ever, 3rd American ever to go, 4-0-0 or better. That's just her second Solheim Cup, so she'll probably be a force to come in the years to come. Lauren Coughlin went 3-0-1 as a rookie, and Megan King went 3-0-0. That's the first time the U.S. has ever had 3 players be 3-0-0 or better in one Solheim Cup. And Megan King, she was definitely the energy of the team. She always hyped up the crowd before every shot, and obviously she matched that with her performance, including a crucial win on Sunday when the Europeans had won 2 of the first 3 matches. She was able to get that first point for the U.S. with a dominant victory. And then Lilia Vu, she, even to herself, she said, she didn't play her best over the week, but on Sunday she was trailing in her match in singles, and she went birdie to earn a half point, in which was ultimately the deciding point in the Solheim Cup. And that got me thinking. Now, normally I would ask Drew this question, but since he's not here, I'm going to ask you, the viewer here. On 18, she stuck a wedge to about 2 feet to basically earn the half point. So if you had a choice, would you rather stick the wedge close to essentially win your match and win the cup? Or would you rather hit a long putt? Let us know in the comments. Me personally, sticking a wedge is pretty cool. There's not many better feelings, but if you could hit a long putt where you got to sit there and walk it in and celebrate on the green, I think that's what I would take. So great weekend there on the Solheim Cup. On the PGA Tour, Patton Kizzire with a win at the Procore Championship. Big win for him as it gave him his tour card here for the next 2 years. That's kind of what this fall championship series is for guys to, earn some exemptions and earn some tour cards. So great win for him. He's actually got a really, really cool what's in the bag. You can read more about it on secondswing.com, but just a few notes. Being a Titleist player, he does have a tailor-made QI10 3-wood in the bag. Of course, that's a GolfWRX Members Choice #1 fairway wood of 2024, and it's probably one of the more popular fairway woods in all tour players' bags. You've seen a lot of players gaming that QI10 core model. Then the other thing that stood out was his blended iron set. He has 4 different irons in the bag. Titleist T200, Titleist T100, 620 CB, and 620 MB. You'll see, usually like 2 in a blended set. Every once in a while you see 3, but one's kind of more as like a driving iron. But rarely do you ever see 4 different irons in a blended set. So pretty cool to see there. So a big win for him. And then on the LIV Tour, Jon Rahm won the individual championship. I know it's not as much in the headlines, but it still shows the quality of player that Jon is. As he won his first year on LIV, and he wins the individual championship. And then finally in club news, Mizuno JPX 925 Hot Metals officially come out tomorrow. You can still go in anytime get fit for those, but they will be in all Second Swing stores starting tomorrow. So if you are a Mizuno JPX Hot Metal fan, you'll want to check out these newest additions that they've added to their lineup. Very, very forgiving, which is what you want in a game improvement iron, and plenty of ball speed. So make sure to check those out. But let's move on to our featured topic of the day, the GolfWRX Members Choice Top 5 Wedges and Putters. Drew Mahold's going to be joined by GolfWRX's Brian Knudson as they discuss that list. So enjoy.
All right, now joining the program, we have a very special guest from GolfWRX. Once again, we're talking about the Members' Choice voting for 2024, specifically the top 5. And we actually have 3 categories to go through today with Brian Knudson. Brian is back. As he alluded to maybe earlier in one of the segments, we still welcome him back. We have not canceled him. We have not been that controversial yet. Maybe we will today. I don't know. But we're talking about wedges today. We're talking about blade putters, and we're talking about mallet putters. So we're going to go through all 3 here. Brian, this is where we get into the short game, right? And players are a lot more particular about some of the short game, especially with how things look, I feel like. So this will be a very good category in terms of trying to gauge where golfers think, the clubs might look the best, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of this voting, you get away from a lot of tech. I know we're seeing more technology poured into wedges and putters over the past few years, but I think this is more of a looks, feel type purchase here than it is anything else. So, yeah, what we're running with here is going to be a little more, less based on maybe numbers and a fitting, even though, you should get fit for a putter and you should get fit for wedges because they're the clubs you use the most and around. We're probably going more on emotions here on this one than we are true hard numbers.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because we have a couple fitters that they reiterate every time I'm chatting. It's Larry Bobka specifically. He'll say it's 40% of your shots are with a putter. So I don't know why so many people don't get fit for their putter and get fit for everything else. So he's definitely on the same train as you are with that. So all right, let's dive into the wedges. We've got some brands here that I would have expected and some maybe that are a little surprising to me. So I'll start at number 5. Coming in at number 5 was the Mizuno T24 series. Number 4 was the Ping S159. Number 3 was the TaylorMade Milled Grind 4. Number 2, Cleveland RTX 6 Zip Core. And then number 1, perhaps the least surprising number 1 in the entire Members' Choice results, is the Titleist Vokey SM10. So, Brian, first impressions after seeing that top 5 list, anything jump out at you? Big surprise or something that, maybe I guess we should have seen coming? What are your first thoughts there?
Yeah, my first thought is, I was really surprised and kind of happy to see Mizuno there on the top 5. I was kind of shocked we didn't see a Callaway in that top 5. But I think Mizuno, if anyone has tried the T24s, you're going to know how good they feel. They perform really well. It seems like each year they're adding a little bit more in terms of grind options. It's a great wedge that people, unfortunately, majority of people haven't really tried yet. But the people who do, I think, realize how good they are. But yeah, kind of shocked we didn't see a Callaway there. But also, I think everybody kind of not knew, but kind of we were waiting for when's the next wedge coming, and now we have Opus. But at the time, Opus was something that you maybe saw in a tour bag, but that was about it. So, a little shocked we didn't see a Jaws Raw or something like that on the list. But very, kind of excited to see that Mizuno T24 because those are some really soft wedges that have spin. And they have, a good amount of sole options there to fit a wide range of players. But, you hit the nail on the head with the Vokey SM10. Nobody, I think, nobody thought that wouldn't be number 1 on this list. It's just it is the number 1 wedge on tour. It's the wedge that most people are talking about out there as amateurs. And it's the one you see in a ton of amateur bags on the weekends when you go play. So not shocked at all to see that one come in again with a landslide percentage of votes.
Yeah, I think Callaway might need to be releasing some clubs a little earlier if they want to get recognized in the Members' Choice top 5, because we talked about this with the Triple Diamond Max driver, and now we're talking about the Opus wedges. I was going to say the same exact thing, that I think if if the members had more exposure maybe to the Opus wedges in the before the voting and could have maybe tested them a little bit, you might have seen the Opus wedges sneak on here. With Mizuno 224 or Ping or whatever I guess one would be left off, but the Opus wedges seem like they're going to be really good. I know it's a little bit early in the process yet to really see how many players have put them in the bag, but early indications are there'll be a lot. But I also wanted to comment. Again, TaylorMade isn't a quote unquote wedge brand, but number 3 is pretty darn good for the milled grind 4s, and again, they're really good wedges. That milled grind, that sole, I mean, it's so unique and distinct in sort of what's out there in the market for wedges. But the technology works and people love them. Again, surprising to me to see TaylorMade up that high, especially when I know I've loved the Ping S159s. So that part was surprising to me to see TaylorMade really above Ping, given what Ping put into their wedges this year. So that's the one big thought, or I guess, surprising revelation to me based on these top 5 results here was TaylorMade at number 3.
Yeah, and I think I think the thing that got them there was from mill grind 3 to mill grind 4, the improvement in sound and feel. The MG4s, I think personally, are head and shoulders softer and more responsive than MG3 was. MG3 was firm; they were a little clicky. The MG4s, I think, are extremely soft, and they play now with everybody else in terms of a good feeling wedge. So I think that's probably what kind of pushed them up. And they did add a bunch of kind of soul grind options with this time around, compared to MG3, where it was like you were pretty limited. I mean, you had like a high bounce, a low bounce, and a mid bounce, and that was about it. And now you've got a few more additions there with the V and some of the other shapes that they brought out. And I think where Titleist does it, the SM10, when you look at that range, I know it's kind of weird, but soul grinds, I mean, they have something for everybody. Whether you want, you're a precision player who plays on firm turf and you want very little bounce and versatility to open the face and that kind of stuff, you've got it. They've got a couple options in that. If you're a player who's like, man, I need a lot of bounce and I want a wide sole because I don't get out of the bunkers very easily and stuff like that, they've got that and everything in between. And I think when people walk into a shop, it's, while it may be overwhelming for some, if they walk into a second swing and walk into a fitter has a ton of options. Like we mentioned with drivers and having adjustability, having a lot of different grinds gives a fitter a lot of different ways to solve, a problem or match something with a swing. And I think Vokey just nails that every year. But the S159, I agree with you. I think it's phenomenal. I've really liked them. To me, again, they're the best wedges Ping's ever made. I don't even think it's close. They sound good. They feel good. A bunch of different soles. They spin out of just about every lie. So I think Ping nailed it, and I would agree. I would think they would be higher up on the list than number 4.
Yeah. I mean, again, and I also want to speak to the wedge fitting apps or technologies that our fitters use from both Ping and Titleist that have been fantastic. It's as simple as putting in a little bit of information about how a golfer uses their wedges, the distances they use them from, the turf they play on, those types of things. And then, those platforms will spit out, sort of a recommendation for gapping, for lofts, for grinds that they can at least start off of, I guess, just based on numbers, and then dynamically in testing and fitting, there is a little bit more yet adjustments. So really with those two platforms as well from Titleist and Ping that our fitters use, those wedge fitting apps, can get golfers even further dialed in specifically for Vokey SM10s or Ping S159s. So I did want to mention that as well. Any big surprises that were left off? I know there's only, I guess, a handful of wedge series in line that maybe didn't jump out on here. We didn't really talk much about the RTX 6 zip cores, which have been phenomenal as well. Cleveland really has never left that sort of high mark in the wedge space. But other than that, any big surprises that maybe didn't make the list for you?
I think, as we mentioned, I think Callaway was just the one. And I think it was just kind of being in between wedges in a sense. Like everybody kind of knew something new was coming. They didn't know what it was yet. And then, by the time Opus hit, it was kind of too late. I think, but still not having a Jaws Raw or something like that on there was still a little surprising. I'm going to go back as well. I think, I think PXG, the Sugar Daddy 2s, I think are phenomenal wedges that, again, don't have the availability, at every shop that you walk into to try them. I think they perform really well. They are kind of expensive. They do push that limit, but I think performance, feel, all that, they do a really good job. And like I said, I know why they're not on the list, but I think they could if you had them in more shops. But yeah, Callaway was the big one, and then I think for I guess not a snub, but something that could have definitely made it. I think those Sugar Daddy 2s could have been a great option there.
Sure, yeah, it's a good couple of models there. I mean, I think Opus is sort of mine, but we understand why it didn't quite get the recognition prior to the voting. So just Callaway, next couple of years, maybe go a month or two earlier with some of these summer releases, and you'll be up here in the top 5. So, all right, let's jump into some putters. We'll go with the blades here, and we don't need to spend a ton of time on the blades because we have 3 very similar models that are in the top 5 here. So, number 5, Scotty Cameron Super Select Newport 2 Plus. Number 4, Odyssey AI1 Double Wide. Number 3, Ping PLD Answer. Number 2, the Scotty Cameron Super Select Newport. And then number 1, the Scotty Cameron Super Select Newport 2. So I guess my big takeaway here or comment is to see 4 and 5 be these sort of a little bit larger blades. I guess I have I don't know if it's a controversial take, but I sort of believe a lot more golfers should be playing mallet type putters. I just think there's the forgiveness there is you can't really ignore it. I know there's obviously aesthetic things that matter to a golfer, but if you're someone who's not as picky about what your putter looks like, then I think there's no reason not to use a mallet. And so to see 4 and 5 be a little bit thicker thicker blades is not a surprise to me in that sense.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think we're seeing more of it across the board. Whether you look at other manufacturers as well, you're seeing more of these kind of wider blades start hitting the market. And you're right. I mean, everybody's trying to, for that player who's only going to play a blade because looks wise, that's just what they like, to add just that maybe a little bit more MOI and a little bit more forgiveness there, a little bit of stability, while still retaining that, blade DNA. Is big. And like I said, if you look at Bettinardi, you look at, a bunch of other brands, you're seeing these options come out there more and more. So it is cool to see them. I'm not shocked at the number 1 and 2, the Newport 2, Newport 1.
Yep.
But I think the Newport 2 being number 1 also plays to your point that little boxier, slightly bigger blade is becoming more popular. Because I remember there was a time not long ago when the Newport was just, it was it. Everybody wanted that small, little more rounded, softer blade look. And that was it. And now the shift towards a little bit bigger, a little bit boxier is kind of the trend. And seeing Newport 2 go to number 1, and then, the PLD Answer, they now make the 2D version as well, which isn't on this list. But having those options is becoming bigger and bigger. And I think, not only manufacturers know it, but the players are starting to realize it as well that, I'm just making a couple more putts, or I'm keeping these online a little bit better with that shape and that added bit of stability. So you're right. I think that's only going to grow. And I think, from here on out, we're probably going to see more of those options become top 5 choices here. But the PLD is phenomenal. I think the Answer, they've expanded that line and made more options. And, not only from the full custom where you can order whatever you want, but just the PLDs that are available, the Answer 2, there's so many options there. And it's a really good putter series. They feel good. Everything on here, feels really good. The one that has some tech is, of course, the double wide with the AI1 face. And then I think, as much as some people look at some technologies in golf, they say, it's hokey or whatever. I think there's something to that AI1 face, especially in the standard. Now, the milled, I don't notice it as much, but the standard AI1 face, I feel like that ball speed does kind of stay consistent. And I feel like some putts that I've hit with one of those putters, that ball tends to roll out a little bit further and a little bit more expected than other, full milled faces or other inserts. So I think Odyssey's, onto something a little bit there with that AI1 face.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on that a little bit with the mallets as well, because I may or may not be playing a mallet that's in the top 5 for the mallets. But in terms of the blades, I was going to mention the 2D as well, just that sort of thicker, again, boxier blade style, Answer style putter. It's growing in popularity. I believe Tony Finau either was or is playing with one and sort of has popularized that a little bit. And so it's, again, maybe this trend will continue to evolve. Maybe it won't. But I just think, not that blades are going away, because I think there's definitely a lot of golfers that, would put down my putter, or even the one I played before this, which was the Ping Hardwood, which is absolutely spaceship looking. But there's enough golfers out there that would look at that and say, ew, no. and need a blade. And I don't think that'll go away, but I think that shift is going to still continue a little bit to something a little bit more like a double wide or a Newport 2 Plus, where you just get, again, like you mentioned, a little bit of an increase in MOI that, over time you'll notice, on your 35, 40 footers, that ball is a little bit more online, a little bit closer to the hole instead of having, maybe a 4 footer, maybe you got a 2.5 footer, and that can be a big difference percentage wise on that next putt.
Yep. I agree.
Now,
good list.
Is there any big, anything that was left off that you think should be here in the blade section, or not really? I guess I don't have any personally that come to mind. Is there any for you?
I'm kind of amazed that Benton already didn't make it. We got 3 Scotties on there, and I know Scotty Cameron is the putter name. When you say putter, right, that's what you think of. But Benton already does have kind of some wider kind of blade models as well.
Sure.
I think they just brought up the BB 1 wide, so I've actually putted with that a lot early in the year. Really solid option as well. So I'm kind of amazed that Benton already didn't make it in the top 5, but that would be my one snub.
Yeah, that's fair. But the BB1 series is really good. We did some testing on that series earlier this year, and it's fantastic. It's actually surprisingly forgiving, I think, too, given that they do their they always have a kind of a face milling there. They never use the face insert, and I think their millings for what are fantastic. Given that they won't do the insert, and it's still very forgiving, feels great. So kudos to them for that line. You're right. They should probably get some more credit, I guess, here. So, all right, we got to get to the mallets. This is where things, I think, again, I've maybe showed my hand a little bit here in terms of how enthusiastic I am about the mallet category. But we've got four brands here? Yeah, we got 4 brands here. The first 2 are actually the same series. So number 5, Odyssey AI1 Jailbird Mini. Then number 4 is the Odyssey AI1 Jailbird Cruiser. Number 3, Scotty Cameron Phantom 5.5. Number 2, TaylorMade Spider Tour X. And then number 1, the L.A.B. Directed Force, or DF3. So, which, how about L.A.B.? I mean, that popularity of the L.A.B. brand has really grown the last couple of years. People love the DF3. People have loved the Mez 1 Max as well in that longer setup. But from the mallets, what's your big takeaways from that top 5?
I mean, I think everybody's kind of looking at, you mentioned it there. When you look at mallets, you're looking at technology. You're looking for something that's more forgiving. You're looking for something that's going to help you when you do catch it off the toe, or, you're a heel guy or whatever, that you're looking for that stability, that forgiveness that's going to offer you a ball that still, gets either to the hole, goes in, or gets you right around the hole and you tap it in for your, par or bogey, and you walk away and you're not making a big mistake on the green. So I think a lot of these here, I mean, they're all built around helping putters hit straighter, more consistent putts. Even the Scotty Cameron Phantom 5.5, when you look at that, especially the new one that comes out, I mean, I know Scotty now has, Austin Rollinson, who was formerly at Odyssey. And I think you can see some of his influence into these models, and he's a big tech guy. And I think, when they're using the aluminum and the steel, and while they still look beautiful, you're getting some of that tech and you're pushing that weight out. So even something like that, where you don't necessarily associate Scotty with tech and all that, it's in there. So, and, like I said, Spider Tour, I mean, high tech stability. The other one too is the Jailbird Cruiser. When those won on tour, when Ricky won and Wyndham Clark won, and everybody started trying those, it's going to be interesting to see what counterbalance putters do, going forward from this year on. We're seeing more models from each manufacturer. They're making a couple models of each. So to see where that goes in terms of the counterbalance thing, it's a big cycle. We saw counterbalance years and years ago, and now it's starting to come back. Does it stay? Does it kind of have its little time in the sun again and then go away? But it's interesting to see where that segment will go with those long putters for people who, kind of need that extra stability or have that little bit of, I hate to say that W word, they have their little yips or something. They do help, and they have that that part of it. So it'll be interesting to see where that segment goes, going forward with these putters.
Yeah, the Odyssey AI1, the Cruiser and the Jailbird Mini. So I think it's really cool to see that there's not only technology there's the counterbalance build with the Cruiser, but it's very forgiving. and it also lines you up really well, which is why I play the Cruiser.
Yes.
The AI1 Cruiser is because it's not just because it's a big, forgiving club head. Obviously, with the AI1, the face that's very forgiving, as we talked about in the blade discussion, but just that black and white stripe, it's so much better to me anyway in lining it up the ball, because you kind of get, it's almost perpendicular right to then the line you have at the hole, and for some reason for me visually it just helps me line things up, which I like a lot. So I think it's kind of a twofold piece there, which is why you see both the Mini and the Cruiser. Obviously the Mini is sort of again, it's a little bit smaller club head, but it's also not the long build, with the counterbalance. That way you just kind of, if you like the classic, 34, 35 inches, without that extra weight above your hands, that's what you get with the Jailbird Mini. On the Scotty Cameron Phantom 5.5, I liked everything you said about sort of the innovations and maybe input from Asti Rollinson on there. I do think the 5.5 is the best looking of the Phantom models. Even someone like me who likes to see obviously maybe a lot down there behind my golf ball when I'm putting, but the 5.5 is maybe the most minimalistic of them, but I still think it's the cleanest, and again lines up really well. And then we got to talk about L.A.B and the DF3, because we had Sam Hahn, the CEO of L.A.B, on for a YouTube discussion, I think back in the spring sometime, and it was one of my favorite conversations with anybody in golf. I mean, he's truly himself, and it shows in how good his products are, his putters are. I mean, it's all scientific. Everything about it is making sure your putting stroke is on plane and it works. And people are starting to see it, and the brand is growing in popularity. And if you haven't tried one and you're open to maybe a unique look of what your putter might look like behind the ball, you should definitely try a L.A.B putter.
Yeah, and I think what you said, with Sam being kind of the CEO there, and being a unique person that just kind of is, I am what I am.
Yeah,
they walked out, and I think the first thing they did when he got there was basically said, like, yes, these are not considered beautiful putters. This isn't
and he acknowledges it. It's awesome.
Yeah, this is what it is. But you know what? It can't be what a traditional putter is, because it has to do these things. And it does those things very well. And that lie angle balancing, I think you're right. The funny thing is, on this list, my gamers are between a L.A.B Mez 1 Max, which, I mean, kind of the similar brother to the DF3. I do have a DF3 and I like it, but and a Spider Tour X, the Scotty Cameron, or the Scotty Scheffler milled face version. Like, those are the two putters I use this year. And yeah, the L.A.B is one of those where putting's a hard thing to do. And if you can take one variable out, which is for L.A.B, the face always pointing towards your target, then you've at least kind of took one thing out of the equation. And then you still got to read it. You still got to hit the right speed. But if you just know that face is going to be aimed at the target, and you're going to hit a putt that's probably pretty straight, you're going to make a lot of putts. And I think a lot of people are realizing that, hey, if I give it a chance, I'm really open to it. It could really work for them. And I know in our forum, it's interesting, because you would think most people would be in there bashing the looks and whatever. No, people are genuinely interested in, like, how does it work? Why does it work? What are the differences of the models? All that. So, like I said, owning the fact that you're different, I think, is a great thing for L.A.B. And now, after you kind of say, yeah, we're different looking, this isn't a blade, now you can get to, like, the meat and potatoes of why it's so good. So yeah, you're seeing a lot of people. I mean, when I bring my L.A.B out to my league, I mean, there's guys who aren't even gear people who are like, wow, was that one of those L.A.B putters? What's it about? Whatever. Like, they're genuinely interested. They've heard about it. So yeah, they've been doing some great stuff over there. And the putters, they do what they say. They do. They keep that face pointed at the target at all times.
Yeah, it basically makes it really tough for you to have a bad putting stroke on a given putt. Is kind of the idea from, that's the sort of the mission behind all the technology and lie angle balancing and everything that that Sam will tell you if you ever talk to him about it. So it's crazy to see how quickly it has become popular. And I think maybe some wins on tour the last couple of years with L.A.B putters have maybe helped with that for sure. But it's awesome to see them get up there, and now we're seeing golfers finally get a little bit maybe convinced. It's like, okay, fine, I'll give this a try, and then they see the results, and it's like, well, okay, I see what Sam and the team over there at L.A.B is getting at. So in that regard, and with that said, that was kind of leading into the sort of the I guess snub, so to speak. I was surprised then that the Mez 1 Max wasn't in here, the one that you mentioned that you might play is. I was surprised that one wasn't here. I guess I'm surprised to see that DF3 is maybe all the way up there, and then the Mez 1 Max is off the top 5. But again, both fantastic, both awesome, and well, really all of these are fantastic with all the technology involved.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, I'm a big Mez guy. I've hit both. I kind of like I think the straight angles, like you mentioned, the Versa and the Jailbird. You know, having those straight angles helps you line up the putter. I think with the Mez that works for me just better. But yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked with mallets that we didn't see something from Even Roll. I mean, Even Roll's got a lot of mallets out there. They have their kind of what do they call it? The sweet face that has kind of the horizontal lines that are milled differently for keeping ball speed the same no matter where you hit it. I know there's a lot of talk of even roll putters. People are big fans, they seem, of the technology and how they work. I'm kind of amazed we didn't see one of those crack into the top 5. That would be the one I'm a little surprised at.
Yeah, there's always, when we get a batch or maybe some trades of even roll putters, they don't last very long in the stores. And so I think it's because people there's kind of I don't want to say cult following, but there's the golfers and the gear junkies out there that know even roll, know they're really good, and they come into the store and they snatch them up right away. So that's I think we're probably not long from even roll getting a spot here in the top 5 of the Mallet or Blade, I guess, putters, if they end up going that route too. So all right, I don't have anything else to add here, Brian, because I got my putters in the top 5, so I got no more input. They did well. So top 5 putters. And, well, we did top 5 mallets, we did top 5 blades, we did top 5 wedges. We covered a lot here in the short game. Thank you, Brian, for joining. This was great to chat through some of the highest regarded short game clubs of 2024 via the members. Golfers, make sure you go check out golfwrx.com and look at all of the information from the voting this year. And then also check out Brian's content over there as well. He does some excellent stuff, and we appreciate him joining today to discuss the wedges and the putters.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And like you said earlier, like Larry Bobka says, man, you got to go get fit for your short game clubs. Go. It's not just all about drivers.
All right, so great list there from the GolfWRX members. I'm not surprised that Vokey was number 1 on the wedges side. They are the most popular wedge out there, so not a big surprise there. On the putter side, I'd love to see that L.A.B. DF3 up there. I've hit that thing a few times, and playing a blade myself, I've played with that putter a little bit here and there on the practice greens, and I absolutely love it. So good to see them get some recognition, but enough with my reactions. We all know you came here to get Kevin Kraft's reactions to the list, so Drew Mahold caught up with him, and he shares his thoughts on these lists.
All right, now welcoming on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, we have a very special guest. If you've been following our content, you know who he is. It's Mr. Kevin Kraft, master fitter at our Columbia store, joining us remotely. Kevin, we have a lot of fun here to get to here in the next 10 minutes or so, because the members at the GolfWRX community voted on their top 5 clubs of 2024 in, various categories, driver down to wedges we'll cover today. We got to get your take on them. We've shared your thoughts already throughout the year on the YouTube channel on just some of your favorite clubs of the year. So we're going to dive right in, starting with driver. I'm going to just give you the top 5, and then I'm going to get your take on, first of all, what the top 5s are, if anything surprises you, and then also give me maybe a model or two that you think should be up there that isn't. So the top 5. At number 5, Titleist TSR2. At number 4, TaylorMade QI10. Number 3, the Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke Triple Diamond. Number 2, Ping G430 Max 10K, and then number 1 was Titleist TSR3. And with a caveat, I'll add that the voting was done before Titleist GT was released.
Great list, great golf clubs, top to bottom. Little surprised to see TSR2 not a little further up there, but again, this is, these are, I think, probably primarily gearheads that are doing this voting. So maybe it's not surprising to see maybe a little bit more player-oriented golf clubs up there with the Triple Diamond and TSR3. Would love to see how GT would factor in there, but because TSR has been an incredible club. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's not super surprising to see anything. I do agree with you that TSR2 maybe could be a little bit higher on the list. But as we get into the fairway wood, you do see TSR2 a little bit higher. So in the fairway wood category, I'll give you the top 5 here as well. We do have a little bit of a shakeup here compared to driver. So the TaylorMade QI10 Tour comes in at number 5. The Paradigm AI Smoke Triple Diamond in at number 4 here. The Titleist TSR2 then at number 3. Ping G430 Max comes in at number 2, so staying in the same spot as the 10K driver. And then number 1, TaylorMade QI10. So you see 2 TaylorMade models here in the top 5 fairway woods. Your thoughts on the fairway wood top 5?
Really good. I mean, it's again a little bit more player dominated, I think, with the Triple Diamond in there and the QI Tour. Both of those are a little bit more low spin, high speed kind of fairway woods. Ping's been such a great golf club. I mean, I'm really excited to see what they're going to have in 2025 for us, because 430 continues to be an incredibly good seller for us and produces all kinds of great numbers. We got lots of loft options to work with, and then adjustability. So it's been really good. Look, you're going to have varying opinions on all of this stuff because you're asking people what they think. So
Right.
We shouldn't be particularly surprised at any of this, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. I think there's certainly the aspect, as we mentioned, of it kind of being better players, gearheads up there, but also you have the top 3 here: TaylorMade QI10, Ping G430 Max, and Titleist TSR2 that are designed with MOI and forgiveness as kind of at the forefront there. And lastly, I also wanted to mention and bring up the Cobra Dark Speed X was a little bit farther down here on the list. I know that's something that you've played the LS model, but that I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that because that's a 3-wood that you've been playing in the bag this year.
Yeah, it's the first time I've played a Cobra fairway wood in quite a long time. I've always kind of gone outside of Cobra for that. The LS has been kind of a revelation for the performance that I'm looking for in a fairway wood, and it's been really good this year. So yeah.
Well, now we talked about G430 Max as you mentioned how great it's been in the fairway wood category. In the hybrid category, it got a ton of the vote. So I'll just give you the top 5 here. You're actually going to have 3 Titleist models here in the top 5. So TSR1 comes in at number 5. TSR2 is there at number 4. The QI10 Rescue from TaylorMade is number 3. Then the TSR3 is number 2. And then G430 is number 1 by a commanding win in the vote at almost 39% of people selecting this as their number 1 hybrid of the year. And again, for some comparison's sake, it was about 15 to 16% with the driver and 3-wood for the winning clubs. And so for hybrid to be over 38% for G430 is pretty impressive. So any thoughts on the hybrids?
Well, I think that one really makes a lot of sense. Just again with the loft options and combinations that we can make with these, it's just such a well-rounded golf club. Great performance all around. There is a bit of a shock in there though, in that Callaway didn't even make that list, and Callaway's done such a great job of refining their shape and the technology they're putting into everything, and again the loft options and tunability. A little bit surprised that Callaway's in there where TSR1 crept in. So that would be the one thing that just seems a little bit out of place to me.
Yeah. I was surprised to see 3 Titleists up there. I mean, TSR hybrids are fantastic. There's no question about it. But just because of what we've talked about with the segment of golfers that are I guess voting on this stuff, to see TSR1 creep in there kind of speaks to me just how really good that hybrid is. And obviously it's resonated with the members that are voting here. So now where this is going to be a little bit more stark in terms of the types of clubs in the top 5 is going to be with the irons here, because we have what I would call 5 players cavity irons that made the top 5. So of all the irons in the market, that are really in the fitting bays at Second Swing right now in terms of new stuff, there's all kinds of different fitting heads, obviously, as you know. But all 5 in the top 5 are players cavity models. So at number 5, Titleist T100. 4 is the Ping I230. Then 3, also Ping with the Blueprint S. And then 2 is the Titleist T150. And then number 1, Srixon ZX7 Mark II. So your take on these top 5 irons?
They're all fantastic. Those clubs are magnificent. It's just interesting that those 5 clubs overall make up such a small portion of iron sales worldwide, just because they're for better players. And it is crazy that, those are the things that get everybody geeked up, right? The new player club releases are the ones that for a lot of us are like really, really exciting, but then we don't get to do a whole lot with them because really the portion of the customer base that's playing it is so small.
Right,
they're all great golf clubs though. There's nothing wrong in that entire list.
Yeah, I mean, I especially commend Srixon for making the kind of push that they have in irons the last 3-4 years with, the original ZX line, now ZX Mark II. They've done a really good job, and clearly people are recognizing how great those irons are. And I also wanted to ask you if there's an iron model potentially in a game improvement category, say, because I'm looking at this list, and again, that's a lot of players distance after the top 5, and then with some more players cavity mix in. So let's give some love to the game improvement irons out there, and I want to get kind of your favorite couple models that you've been fitting this year.
I would give probably the most improved award to Srixon, the ZX4 from this generation compared to the last generation. Big step forward, really, really good. QI has been a good seller for us here, and of course, Ping G430 and Titleist T350, both really great golf clubs. Again, you can't really make a bad decision. You just have to whittle it down to what you like best, and then make sure that we maximize it for you.
Yeah, that's kind of that's your guys' job, right? Is to find the club that works, and then your job is to maximize it for the golfer. So, all right, last category here. I've got the wedges. You might not be surprised by the name at the top here, but I'm going to give you the top 5 anyway. So we have the Mizuno T24 coming in at number 5. Ping S159 is going to be the 4 spot. At number 3, TaylorMade Milled Grind 4. Number 2, the Cleveland RTX 6 Zip Core. And then number 1, and a shocking result, right? A Titleist Vokey SM10 at kind of a similar percentage of the vote as the Ping G430 with the hybrid, right around 38, 39%. So, Kevin, your take on the wedges, that top 5 there. Any surprises, anything that is worth noting for you?
This was probably the least shocking category of the group. Any way you look at it, Vokey's the number 1 wedge, and so it's not surprising that it's dominated. They got lots of grind options and finish options, and it's just a great golf club. I'm a wedge hound. I love all of them. I would like to play all of them. I just don't have room in my bag to play all of them. So the only surprise there was that Callaway didn't get any love, because the Jaws Raw was a fantastic wedge. I played that one for probably 18 months. It was a great golf club. So that's to me the only surprise there.
I mean, I think there is a way to play all these wedges in your bag, right? Like you can play, you have 14 clubs to put in your bag, so you probably could go with like 12 wedges. I don't think anybody's stopping you from doing that. I think that's allowed under the USGA rules. So don't say that you don't have room, because you probably do, right? I mean, I'm looking at the list here. There was 5 we just gave you. That's only 5 clubs of the 14. So I'm just saying.
I'm sure there's some people out there that would love to have me playing just wedges and a driver and a putter.
There's a lot of people that you would beat with just wedges and a driver and a putter. I know that. There's also some courses that I know that you could play just those clubs and be totally fine.
Yeah, well, not enough of them. Not enough of the competitive courses anyway. But
no. I suppose that's true. But all right. So that was Mr. Kevin Kraft joining us to go over the GolfWRX Members Choice top 5 voting. We went through driver, fairway wood, hybrid, irons, and wedges. Some great stuff there from Kevin. If you want to learn more, see GolfWRX.com. They've got all the information on their Members Choice voting for this year. Also, stay tuned for some more stuff on YouTube coming on it as well. So, Kevin, thanks for joining for that.
Anytime. Love talking about clubs.
Well, so there's Kevin's thoughts on the GolfWRX Members Choice Top 5 list from 2024. Don't worry, we got more with Kevin Kraft coming up on next week's episode. He's going to give us an update on his playing career, and he's got some potentially pretty big news coming, so make sure you stay tuned for next week's episode as we catch up with Kevin and his game. Also on our YouTube channel, if you haven't checked out Charlie's Golfing Club, his journey, absolutely recommend it. It's an inspiring story. Charlie's doing so much good work to, raise awareness for autism, but also to, show that no matter what your swing is, you can still play this wonderful game that we all love. So highly recommend that. We also got some more Emma Carpenter content coming out on Thursday. So keep an eye out for that on our YouTube channel. And then next Tuesday, final Live at Lunch at the Minnetonka store. Larry, Bobka, Tyler Fitzel doing one last putter fitting clinic. Next week's topic is focusing on technology, specifically with Putt View. So see how that can help, our fitters dial in your game, but also help you improve your putting. So make sure you tune into that next Tuesday at noon. And as always, please let us know any other, topics or clubs you'd like us to talk about or ask our fitters. We'd be happy to do that for you. And thanks again for tuning in to another episode, I should say, of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast.